This is kind of exciting. This just arrived today. It's from the Gigrig. +4. You can add 4 loops to your switcher. So that's kind of cool. You got G2, G3. You can add 4 extra loops, or an Atom, I think, is it called? This isn't sponsored. I paid for it myself. What interested me wasn't actually that you could add 4 loops to your G2 or G3, because I don't have one. What kind of caught my eye was it's MIDI compatible. And it looks like you can turn the loops on and off with a MIDI controller. For example, I have Morningstar MC6, right? Let's have a look inside the box then. That usual solid build quality. I think this is the changes the MIDI channel from what I read before. 9-volt center negative. I'll use one of my Gigrig power supplies for that. Here are the loops on the back. So we've got sends and returns, and input and output. Input, output, send 1, return 1, send 2, return 2, and then on the bottom, I guess the same on the other side, right? Yeah. Okay, so here we are. We're going to program the MC6 here to control the +4. What do we need to do that? We need to use the Morningstar editor interface online and plug the Morningstar in with the USB cable to do that. It'll take power from USB at this point, so that's pretty simple. And when we connect, so we will connect here. Make sure you choose the right MIDI interface or port to connect to. And there we go. You said to refresh it. Sometimes that happens, so just refresh the page. You can see it. You can see the banks that you've got. I was using this in the past to control, for example, the Studio One transport when I was recording guitar. So record, play, undo, so you don't have to take your hands off the guitar, like if you're just recording something yourself. Kind of useful for that. And the other thing we will need is we need the Gigrig manual, so the +4 remote effects loop manual, because section 6 here has the MIDI implementation. It tells us a couple of things. It says it's fully programmable. It tells us the MIDI channel of the interface is set by the rotary switch, which is like here, the rotary switch. So you can select any channel. It's currently set to 1, so we need to know that for the settings that we put in the MC6 interface, in the MC6 editor. It also tells us that we've got options. We can program control change messages, so we can turn loops 1, 2, 3, and 4 on or off using control change messages. So CC80, sending any value between 64 and 127, will turn loop 1 on. CC81, any value between 64 and 127, will turn loop 2 on. And then we can use CC80, any value between 1 and 63, to turn loop 1 off, and loop 2, CC81, any value between 1 and 63, to turn loop 2 off. There's also the program change message option, which is looks quite interesting. So I can use that to activate and deactivate like different loops at the same time. So for example, program change message 10, it says turns all, here we go, all loops become inactive. And 25, program change message 25, makes everything active. And you have everything in between. So like 20 makes 1 inactive, 2 active, 3 inactive, 4 active. Whereas 21 makes loops 1, 2, and 4 active and 3 inactive. And that could be quite interesting. One message, simple programming, if you're really clear on what you're doing. So a little bit of thought. But I'm going to use control change messages today, and I'm going to program those into the Morningstar editor. I'm going to go to bank 10 here. I am going to use toggle mode on the Morningstar. So toggle mode means you send one message when you press the button once, and then you send a different message when you press it again, and you can basically switch between those two things. So position 1, position 2, on, off, and that's going to be perfect for sending our control change like on and off values. So let's start. Let's put loop 1 in here. And I don't know whether I need it in toggle or not. I'm not sure about that, but I'm going to put it in there as well. I'm going to choose the action of press. You can see that Morningstar's got loads of actions: long press, long scroll, double tap, loads of different things you can do. But I'm going to use press, and my message will be a control change message. This will be position 1, and we will send message 80 as per the manual. 80. We will send the value of 127, and we'll send it on MIDI channel 1 because that's where we were set on here. So that's the first one, and then we need to do the same again. Message 2, press, control change. This will be position 2 in the toggle. It'll be control change 80 again. It'll be value 1 because 1 to 63 turns it off, and it's on MIDI channel 1. And that we can save, and you can see it's updated it here in the presets. You can see, I think, as the display's not too bright, you can see loop 1 now is the name that we put here. We could, of course, also, we could call that, if we're clear on our board what we're putting in there, we could call that distortion, or we could call that the pedal name, right? So that's an option as well. Let's do loop 2. Loop 2. So again, same thing again. Oh, toggle mode on. Press. Control change. This time we're doing loop 2, so it's control change 81. And the value for on we're using is 127. We could use anything between 64 and 127, but easy, let's think 127 on, 1 off at the two extremes, right? On MIDI channel 1. We're going to press, that was position 1. Yeah, we're going to press, we're going to use control change, we're doing this as position 2 in the toggle, we're going to set 81 again, I'm going to set value 1 for off, MIDI channel 1, and we are going to save that preset. Now, we could also here, just to test this out nicely, let's also do, let's do loops 1 and 2. Let's call it part A. Right, let's imagine that this was part A in a song that we were playing, and we wanted to have both loops on for part A. So here we will send. Now here we could choose to use the program change. So maybe actually let's test that, right? So for program change to have loops 1 and 2 active and 3 and 4 inactive, we're going to use program change 30. So let's try that. I don't usually use program changes much, so let's see program change. program change, message 13. Send it to all MIDI channels? No, we're just going to send it to MIDI channel 1 because that's, I guess, if we were passing it through to all changed MIDI devices, then we might end up changing another setting if we're plugged in to multiple devices. So let's not do that. And because this is a toggle mode, let's use program change 10. Program change 10. And we will use that because 10 turns all loops off. So that'll be very interesting. We'll save that preset. So now we have loop 1, loop 2, and this is both, what we're calling it here, part A, and you can see they've all updated on there. So that is the end of the first bit of programming. So let's see what we need to do next. Next, what we need to do, we need to wire everything up, right? So let's put this into loop 1. That's red on there. There's a distortion effect in there, and then we've got on the purple one here, I've got reverb, a big sky. So this is again send and return. And I know these are my returns and these are my sends. We need to plug the guitar in. So we've got input at the start here, and we have amplifier at the end. So output, and I guess you've got A and B outputs, presumably stereo devices. I guess. Haven't looked at that, but yeah, right. So signal chain is in. Don't know how well we can see this. It's a bit of a mess with all these cables. So guitar in, loop 1, send, return, loop 2, send, return, out to amplifier. Right. We will need to control this with a MIDI cable. So we've got little MIDI patch cable here. So this is MIDI in. So we'll wire that up on MIDI in. And we will, because this would be on the pedal board, I'm going to power this now 9V DC center negative, not from USB, because that's a better experiment, but we're going to put this in, we're going to put the patch here into MIDI out. So now, when we power up, we will have, where are we on the camera? It's terrible. So when we power up, we'll have MIDI messages coming from here into here, and then we should be able to turn on loop 1 or loop 2 or both of them and turn them off. And this will be a fantastic test of whether I can do this. If it works, we can start to do some more interesting things, right? We could put multiple pedals in, we could set particular settings for particular sounds where we want to turn multiple effects on at once. Yeah, and I might try daisy chaining the second device in if that's working. All right, so here we go. Right, we need to get the camera in a good position now so that we can see the pedals and the power. So let's figure that out. Right. Yeah, quite excited about this actually. Interesting to see how it works. Here we are, and we're ready to power this stuff up. We've got distortion effect, the red in loop 1. We've got big sky reverb in 2. We've got MIDI connected through, and we're using a Gen X 14 to power it all. So let's turn it on. And yeah, I guess moment of truth, right? So this is oh, first of all, we need to scroll. We put it on bank 10. So bank 10, yeah, I don't know how well this is visible here. Probably not because of the backlight. Loop 1, loop 2, and this was what we call part A that had both loops being turned on and off. So, hey, loop 1, here it is, and off again. Loop 2, and off. Oh, I just accidentally changed the bank, and so didn't get the program change messages right. Something I'll have to take a look at, but the rest of it seems to be working nicely. So nothing. Reverb. And distortion. I'd say that's pretty successful for our first attempt. I'm going to go and study the program change messages and work out what I maybe did wrong. I am then probably going to try connecting up the second +4 and check the MIDI pass-through from one to the other. This opens up a lot of interesting possibilities. So yeah, well, should be a lot of fun. Okay, so it was really simple user error that caused that program change not to work. I hadn't selected the positions in the Morningstar editor, so I didn't know which way to toggle them. But I fixed that, and you'll see in the next part of the video the program changes are all working nicely now. Well, that's been a fun way to spend Saturday afternoon. I've gone reasonably deep on this +4 setup, and yeah, let's take a look at what we got to. So what have we got happening here then? We've got two +4s chained together, both controlled by the Morningstar, and I've been using MIDI as well now into the timeline and through to the big sky to change the patches as well. I got a bit more creative overall, and all of that's been controlled by the Morningstar. So guitar signal chain for the sound is guitar goes in. We've got 3 loops at the moment that are plugged in. So we've got a fuzz pedal and 2 distortion pedals here. Signal comes out of there, goes into the second +4. We've got timeline in the first loop and the big sky in the next loop, and then 2 loops are empty, and the signal goes out to the amplifier. Right, MIDI goes from Morningstar into the bottom one, comes out of the bottom one into the top one, comes out of this one, goes into the timeline, and from the timeline to the big sky. So important things to think about when you do that. First of all, this is set, the bottom one, this is set to MIDI channel 1. This is set to MIDI channel 2. This is set to MIDI channel 3. And this is set to MIDI channel 4. So they're all running on separate MIDI channels, and that means I can send messages to each of them separately. We saw before the interface on the Morningstar, and I'll do a run through of one of the presets in a second, so we can see how that's organized. But basically, what you can do is you can send messages to any one of these devices in order to make a change, either to which loops are active or which patches are selected. And that means we can set this up here. So we have, for example, intro. And what we've done is we've turned on loop 1 on here,
loop 3 on here. So actually, it's the signal chain is gone through the loop 3 on here into loop 1 on the timeline. We've picked a patch on the timeline. Nothing happening on the big sky. All with one button. Part A, we've changed the signal. We've changed the loop. So we've changed to this distortion pedal. We've changed the patch. We've kept the timeline on, but we've changed the patch on the timeline. And we've still got nothing happening on the big sky. Go down on the banks here. No, let's go up on the banks. So, and here's just the second one. So same sort of thing. So part A, I don't know if you noticed, but the big sky changed. So we've got second loop on this one is the big sky, and we changed the patch. Right, and we've got just clean signal, nothing actually at all in terms of distortion, gain staging. And then the second part, we keep the big sky where it was, and we engage this pedal here. And we can turn it all off with this.
So that's pretty flexible actually. We've got one button control over 8 loops, because they're set in the mono loops, and over the patches on any MIDI controlled pedals that we've got, right? We're using Gigrig power. It's nice and quiet. None of this is an advert for Gigrig, by the way. I paid for all this stuff myself, just because I like it and I'm interested in it. So we've got basically a reasonably functional programmable switcher for the price of 2 +4s. These +4s were £189 each. And I already had the Morningstar. So I'm not presenting this as like you should buy this instead of, or you should establish a setup like this instead of, buying a fully functional Gigrig switcher. Because actually there are a lot of things that you might get, there are a lot of things you do get on those switches that you can't do with this setup. The loops are fixed in order here. So it's like having it's more like having the QMX, but with more programmable control. That's the way to think about it. So it's not like the Atom or the G3. This is more like a QMX with a bit more power, but obviously I had to have a MIDI controller to do that. And it's possible that it's not going to be as intuitive in terms of looking at what's on and what's not on as it is when you look at a QMX and it's very clear how your 6 pedals are running. But if you were running a set list with songs and you wanted to program the parts through them and maybe set a bank on the Morningstar for each of them, or whatever MIDI controller you're using, like, set a bank. This one's got 6. I mean, I guess if you had the 8, you could have all 8 loops like on a separate switch. But at the moment, I'm using it in a different way. I'm setting it as like part A, part B, part C, whatever, bridge, whatever you want to call it, on your song, where you might be changing the sounds as you go, and you just want to change them with one foot switch. And I think that's pretty powerful. And this was a nice experiment. I mean, it's a different thing to get it on a board and work out how it fits on the board and all that kind of stuff. But I think that was a pretty good experiment. So, if nothing else, I've had a fun afternoon playing around with it. So let's take a look at the let's take a look on screen. What does it look like on screen? So, okay, so we're back again, same as we were looking at when we originally set it up. And what we have here, we've got the Morningstar editor. This was my first setup. We had basically toggle on and off, toggle mode on. So position 1, position 2, one sending the control change message for on, one sending the control change message for off, I'm doing that basically for loop 1, loop 2, loop 3 on one of the +4 units, and then I call the other ones, even though they're numbered 1, 2, 3, 4 again, on the second unit, call it loop 5 and loop 6. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 loops and an all off. So all off, nice program change message that you can use to set everything inactive, and that's kind of cool. If you keep that in the same place on the Morningstar or whatever your MIDI controller is, then you've always got that opportunity just to kill everything. And I mean, obviously you're not killing the guitar signal, but you are you're turning off all the effects if something's getting out of hand, right? So that's kind of nice. Second thing then, so let's have a look at this. I called it song 1, although I don't have a song in mind for that. But let's look at it. Intro, part A, part B. So switch A has the intro setting on it, and for these I used the program change messages. This is pretty cool on the MIDI implementation here. So program change button A, program change 14, which if we have a look at on here, that is inactive, inactive, active, inactive. So immediately we press that, we turn all the loops off except for the third loop on MIDI channel 1. So this is our bottom unit here. This is the so on the bottom unit here, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. This is set to MIDI channel 1. And remember, you can change the channel using that rotary switch that we looked at earlier. So MIDI channel 1, program change message 14, inactive, inactive, active, inactive, and MIDI channel 2. So this device, program change 11, and that makes loop 1 active and the rest inactive. So immediately one button, I'm turning on loops on both of these units. Right, MIDI channel 3, I set the timeline to MIDI channel 3, and I used program change 52 to select a particular patch, right? And that's basically the MIDI being passed through the 2+4s and into the timeline. And that's basically it, right? In terms of the implementation here, it's pretty straightforward. Part A. So again, program change 12 on channel 1, program change 11 on MIDI channel 2, and then selecting a different patch 3. So a different patch on the timeline. And then part B. So again, still program change 12, so that's the second loop active on the bottom on the first unit. MIDI channel 2, program change 12, so again just selecting the second loop like on this one as well, and MIDI channel 4, which is the big sky, we're selecting a particular patch 24. And then we can obviously turn everything off again with all off. So that's basically the interface. You know, you can name them, you can label them, you could have your set list here in order. You could name, instead of calling these loop 1, loop 2, loop 3, loop 4, loop 5, I could obviously change those to the names of the pedals, and I can see that on the device here. I could, if I wanted to have more, obviously I can go up and down with the bank changes on here. This is a pretty simple way of organizing it, and it worked pretty nicely actually. It really did work pretty nicely. So we could listen to some of these sounds. So here we are on this first song. So that's just a clean sound. There's a little bit of reverb on that amplifier as well. It's not completely dry. So what did we do on this? So, you know, 3 sounds, different patches, different loops, you know, but it's pretty flexible. If you enjoyed that, please like it, and let me know in the comments if there's anything else you know, I can share, or things you think I might be able to tell you about how to, you know, configure this. I've spent another day with it now, and you might be interested to learn a little bit more about this setup. So here I have fully rigged up like 8 loops. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, loop 5 is empty. 6, 7, 8. Controlled from the floor here. I've got a all on and an all off, showing the program changes work nicely. I have here, look, 1, 2, 3, 4, so independent controls for each of those 4, and same 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's pretty neat and pretty simple way of doing it. And then similarly to things that we're looking at on Saturday, but you know, we can turn on part A, part B, you know, part C, introduction, something else, all off. And that's using those program changes, so implemented properly. I think that's a really nice implementation, actually, of MIDI, the way that the program changes work like that, and the simplicity of sending that one command to control all 4 of the loops at the same time, the states of the loops at the same time. So yeah, nice job to the Gigrig. Yeah, nicely done.